Well, hello. In this video, we're talking about distributing versus factoring. Now, we've talked about distribution before in another video, so I'll briefly go over it here, but I really want to talk about it so I can underscore what factoring is all about, because really factoring is the process to undo distribution. So let's look at this first example here. I'll go ahead and use a fantastic color green. We have 8 multiplied by the quantity, which means 8 multiplied by everything in the parentheses, 3x plus 2y. So we talked about before, and we'll talk about again here, that the multiplication is here because there's nothing written between the 8 and the parenthesis. And since that 8's being multiplied by everything, it gets distributed to both the 3x and it gets distributed to the 2y. So that multiplication, we have 8 times 3, which is 24. And then 8 times 2, which is 16. Now, that's it. We distributed. The piece that I want to talk about next, though, is imagining that we don't have the previous step. Let's ignore that previous step and really just look at 24x plus 16y. We know that the 24, because we just did it, but we could also use some math facts and say that 24 came from 8 times 3. The reason why I bring that up is because the process of factoring to undo distribution requires either the 8 or the 3 to be in common with the 16. Now, when I say that, what I really mean is when I look at that 16, it also has some factors. It also has 2 numbers that multiplied to be 16, which, because we just did it, we know is 8 times 2. Now, here's the key about factoring. Because the 8 is in common to both the 24 and the 16, we can rewrite 24x plus 16y to be that 8 out in front multiplied by everything else inside, which in this case is that 3 in x and the 2 in y. 3x plus 2y. So that's how we are able to go both forward with our distribution and then backward with our factoring. We look at the factors, and remember, factor means anything that's multiplied or divided. So we look at our factors of 24 and the factors of 16 for the factor that's in common to both, and that's what's written out in front. So let's do that same thing to our next example, 11x plus 44y. In order to get started, we first need to know what numbers multiply to be 11. And if you haven't already guessed, 11 is. It's just 11 times 1. There are no other numbers that multiply to be 11. 11 is a prime number, which is really cool, like Optimus Prime. Now, 44, we want to know what 2 numbers multiply to be 44. And again, if you haven't guessed, 11 is the magic number here. In this case, it's 11 times 4. So the first step to factoring is to identify a number that they share in common. And in this case, that number 11 is a number that they share in common. So our very first step here is to think about what that process is going to look like. We know our answer is going to have a set of parentheses because we're factoring. We're undoing the process of distribution. So distribution starts with a set of parentheses. We have a number that's going to be multiplied out front, and then we have the 2 other numbers inside. So that 11 is the number that's going to be written out in front. That number that's shared is the number written outside of the parentheses. What's written inside of the parentheses is everything left over. In this case, it's the 1 times the x, which is just x. And then it's going to be the 4 times the y, 4y. Ladies and gentlemen, we really would be done right now except for one detail, and that one detail is our positives and our negatives. The x is positive, and we can take that for granted because the 11 was positive. This symbol out here, there was no symbol. It was just a positive 11x. So the x stays positive in our answer. But the 44 was negative. And so when we look at our answer here, after we've done our factoring and we pulled that 11 out to the front, that 4 is still going to be negative as a result. And so just to rewrite our final answer here so that we can see it all together. Come on, there it goes. We have 11 times x minus 4y, end parenthesis. Ladies and gentlemen, when you go to do this in the problem sets that you're looking at and you're filling in the blanks, keep in mind that 11x and 4y are going to be your blanks. And if there was a positive written, so let's just go ahead and take a look at an example that would be a computer screen. I'll go and scroll down here a little bit. Your computer screen may have a blank, parenthesis, blank, plus blank, parenthesis. What you would type in order to match what we just answered up above is the 11 in the first blank, the x in the second blank, but then negative 4y in the third blank. That's how you're going to be able to capture everything that you saw up above. The 11, the x, and then the subtraction of 4y is represented by a negative 4y because the subtraction sign is just representing a negative number. So I hope that answered all your questions. If not, don't hesitate to email me. And good luck, you guys are going to do awesome. Take care.